Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the European Overwatch PIT Championship for Group B. I am Storm, and joining me today is Hurix. How are you doing today, man?
Good as always, man. Really excited for some great matches. We obviously have Group B going on today, and really solid teams. One in particular, of course, Misfits, definitely a standout of this grouping, but really excited to see what all these teams are going to bring to the table.
Yeah, today we're going to get a little bit more of a clearer picture as to what's going to be going on in the Group B. Of course, Group A qualifiers are already NIP, United, Vivi's Adventures, and of course we have Laser Kittens all qualified from this past week. And today we are going to be bringing you three matches. It will be Dignitas up against X Alternate Attacks for our first match. Then we will move over to Movistar Riders up against Misfits, and we'll round out the day with Singularity Ninjas and Hammers Esports. But Hurix, I got to ask you, man, X Alternate Attacks up against Dignitas today. Dignitas a little disappointing yesterday in their last match up against Movistar Riders. What are you thinking about this first series?
Well, I think the thing that's most interesting, at least to me personally, with this particular matchup is that, yes, Dignitas did just wind up losing to Movistar Riders. Obviously, that team is looking pretty solid right now, but Dignitas losing out on Nepal, I think, is pretty interesting. And then, you know, it looked very different on that first payload map on Hollywood, where they were able to turn things back around. They had a lot of time left on the clock when they won in overtime. So I think going into this first match, which we already know is going to be Nepal here for Dignitas, it's not looking incredibly solid, given the fact that Alternate Attacks actually looked kind of solid yesterday against Hammers Esports on Nepal. We'll have to see if they're going to stack up in the same way, but both of these teams have already played this map. Both teams have already lost on this particular map, and then we'll have to see. I mean, if Dignitas winds up winning it, they'll be in a great position to go ahead and win out the series. But you know, if they wind up losing it, they're probably going to take it to Hollywood. They'll probably get the exact same matchup that they had yesterday if they wind up losing this first map. So certainly if you're Dignitas right now, you really want to come out of this one ahead in this first map so that you're not kind of falling victim to the map pool in much the same fashion that we saw Laser Kittens, who kept getting Eichenwald in Group A every single time, and they were just so inconsistent on that map. They would be able to turn things around on Oasis, which I guess for Dignitas, Hollywood would be their Oasis here. But other than that, I mean, Dignitas certainly, I mean, they don't want to be losing this first map here on Paul because it didn't look too good for them the last time we saw them here.
I'd have to agree, but then you look on the other side of things, X Alternate Attacks, dropping 0-2 to Hammers Esports yesterday. I wouldn't say I'm too surprised, but Hammers Esports kind of in their debut there, coming out on top in a 2-0. What kind of a shot are you giving the X Alternate Attack squad up against Dignitas here in this best of 3 today?
Well, I think Dignitas should be able to take this one. I felt pretty confident about their abilities yesterday as well. But of course, I mean, X Alternate Attacks up against their opponent yesterday, Hammers Esports, obviously formerly the Chavs as well. You know, they still looked pretty solid. There was definitely some hints of some really stellar play there. I think Ruby really stepped up a lot in the qualifier. We didn't see him as much yesterday. We saw some interesting stuff come out from them, in particular on Numbani as well. Tal is, of course, bringing out the Torbjorn. But here on Nepal, where I think it matters the most is just the matchups in terms of how these dive comps are going to interact against each other. And I think Dignitas just has the better dive comp. Of course, though, we have seen some great things in the past from guys like Cranks and especially Decode as well, who I think is one of the better tanks right now in this grouping, particularly on Winston, actually. But we'll have to see what they bring to the table here initially.
Well, we're getting started here on Village to get things underway in this best of 3, guys. We see a Far Mercy combo coming out from both sides of the ball here. Neither team really having a whole lot to really deal with it, but there's the first pick. It's going to be Evoke taken down there. 2 picks coming out as Cranks gets the one on Toxican. Man, he is lighting up the kill feed here. This is X Attacks coming out on fire, and they should be able to come out with the first points off of this.
Very convincing fashion, too. And again, we have to just harken back a little bit to what this means. I mean, this could very well turn into one of the situations that we saw Laser Kittens in, where they just keep accidentally, randomly getting the worst map in their pool, which will be Nepal. I mean, granted, in their favor, there is no other King of the Hill map other than a tiebreaker on Oasis that they have to worry about, but still, losing out on this map consistently here would be a huge problem for them.
Big pickup as Evoke's going to be the first to drop. You got to remember, though, we do see a couple of changes. They're going to make the change over to the Ana and the 76 to try to better deal with the Pharah composition, but it doesn't matter, Hurix. This is Cranks just lighting it up along with the code there, and they're easily going to be able to hit about 40+%. There is no stopping this Far Mercy setup.
It doesn't seem like Dignitas really feels too confident in that dive setup. I mean, we've seen them make some changes, and they performed well with a triple tank yesterday. I believe on Sanctum it was that they were able to be a little bit more consistent on, but still struggled a little bit, especially in that particular matchup. We'll have to see if they're able to turn things back around, though.
Vision is kind of winning out this duel with Bromas way in the back, has a pulse bomb, doesn't land a stick, does find the pick though onto Vanless in the end there. He's going to light up the feed as Bromas will be taken down. And honestly, X attacks are just getting as aggressive as they possibly could be at this time here, because they've got a Resurrect to work with, Primal Rage on the way, they've got Barrage, and almost a sound barrier, and there's pretty much no stopping them. They have a massive ult advantage, and now we're going to see a change over from Watt over to the Reinhardt here. Let's see what sort of an impact that will make for them.
I mean, let's be realistic here. This isn't even close. Like, this isn't even a match, really. I mean, alternate attacks, X-alternate attacks, my apologies, is just all over them. Crank's just going to let loose the Barrage. He's already going to find a kill there. They're trying to flip the point, and we are going to be seeing Envision in a little bit of a duel here. D.Va comes over to support that one, as we do as well see Linkser just coming alive, trying to get some Dragon Blade kills. He already finds 2, almost 3, but forced to back off. They should be able to flip this one, but not before it gets to 99%.
99% is the key here for these guys on the side of X attacks, and the fact that they still have a Resurrect to work with, and Pulse Bomb and Sound Barrier are on the way, they're at such an advantage because Linkser was the big staple there for Dignitas to be able to get themselves at least a few points there. They will have a Nano Visor at the ready, but we'll have to see what sort of an impact that's going to make against the Sound Barrier and the Resurrect.
We're seeing ults stacking up, of course, for both sides, but in particularly, I mean, certainly looking at a guy like Ruby here to make the most of this Resurrect, and we already seeing a lot of ults coming out. Toxicant actually trying to get the most out of this Nano Visor. He already finds 4. It looks like Dignitas is coming back into this one a little bit.
A little surprising given the fact that there was a defense matrix kind of sitting in his face, but it really wasn't the best positioning from Next there, so unfortunately wasn't able to gobble up too much of that damage from the Nano Visor. And what do you know here? Linkser is almost ready to go with his Dragon Blade. Again, they almost have the Earth Shatter and Sound Barriers, so they're sitting in a decent position now at 50%. This is looking like Dignitas very well to make their way back into this round.
Well, Ruby actually just made the swap. He had Resurrect stacked up, and he just actually swapped over to the Ana. And since Crank's actually used his ultimate already, they're not going to have that available. I mean, Dignitas in a really good position, actually, to just hold this one out and keep controlling this. I mean, I'm not sure what they thought was going on. I don't know. I mean, Envision and Cranks both used their ultimates. We saw the Resurrect just, pulled out because Ana swap happened. I mean, I don't understand their thought process on that. I definitely would think that you would want that. I mean, maybe they were just thinking that the Mercy was getting shut down a little bit, but he can always make a late entry onto the point and just come up next to that wall and make the res. But I don't know. They decided to go over to the Ana and still haven't really gotten any headway in these last couple of fights here at all.
Oh, there's a big shatter though from Watt. He picks up 3. They're gonna just light it up once again here. Eventually, he will be dropped. Envision has a pulse bomb. Let's see if he can find his stick onto anything. They do come back with a few more kills, trying to find the Lucio here in the end. But the Primal Rage from Decode coming up big. There's the kill. No, it's gonna be Toxicant finding the kill there onto Envision. D.Va gonna be taken out of the mech. Tactical Visor will come down here, and Toxicant should be able to clean this one up for his squad, make the flip Hurix, and take this first round.
Man, Dignitas to be able to come back. I'm pretty sure this is exactly what happened yesterday when they came back into it and were able to make a little bit of a run for themselves. But nonetheless, now they're going to be up 1-0. And certainly, I mean, it seemed as though X-Alternate Attacks was going to be a very dominant victor in that first map. But things turned completely around, and I don't know, things are looking a lot like yesterday on this particular map, where teams just struggling to get control of the point once they do lose it initially. And we will see more than likely both sides bring out the Zarya here, and that is going to be the case as both of them make the swap, and a triple tank setup coming out from Dignitas, as Bromas going to be the soldier for this particular team. We will see a 2-2-2 actually come out here for X-Alternate Attacks.
I think Linkser really just came alive after they initially got the flip. His Dragon Blades were finding, on average after that, I think he had a couple of them had, like 2, 3, 4 kills with the Dragon Blades, and that's something we didn't see from him to get things started for the first 99% that went in favor of X attacks. So we'll see what sort of changes, these changes will make for these squads here as they go with that triple tank setup from the side of Dignitas, and they're actually pressuring them back pretty well as Linkser finds the first pick there onto Envision, which pretty much says they should be able to come through with the first points here in round number 2.
And they will be able to press this too. They're just laying into the shield and getting pretty aggressive into this corner here. What going to be forced back a little bit as he's going to get into a little bit of a battle with Decode, and Decode actually going to be taken down already. They're taking that trade, and Vision taking a little bit of damage himself, but they do have control here. Dignitas definitely looking to try to take the advantage, make this fight last as long as possible, and they're definitely doing a good job of that with Envision already throwing out his pulse bomb, and that's going to go to waste as well. Finds no kills.
Vision trying to be the biggest kind of pest he can possibly be, but there's so much incoming healing onto Watt that he really doesn't even have to worry about it. He getting close to his Earth Shatter here. Decode's a little bit closer, but other than that, not too much to work with at this time. I'm looking for Cranks here. There's a Nano Boost coming out from Decode. Big Shatter actually hits 3 of them. Finds 2 more kills with the swing of 1 Hammer Strike there. In the end, it looks like this should be X attacks cleaning things up.
Man, Decode definitely turned on the burners for that one. Able to find 3 kills, and then also just kind of shut down that charge that was coming out from What 7 as well. Found that kill right after. And man, definitely a good turnaround there from Decode to be able to get his team back into this one, onto the point, securing that one, generating some score now. See if Dignitas has the opportunity now to go ahead and flip things back. Obviously, we saw them holding on last time for quite a long time. I mean, made a complete run, 0 to 100 there the last time.
I think that was great ult management coming out from X Attacks, because Cranks had his tactical visor out there and didn't even need to use it. Now he's got a nano visor at the ready. He's not going to get the nano boost up, unfortunately. There, it's going to come a little late into the sound barrier. Finds a little bit of damage here, but in the end, it looks like it's going to be Dignitas picking up 3 kills here as Cranks didn't find really anything whatsoever, just Envision and Ruby in the area. Envision gets the recall to safety, but he's not going to last too much longer, and Dignitas taking this point back in their favor.
And it's definitely a lot closer than what we saw the first time around. Obviously, the scoreline for the first map certainly looked as though things were close, and definitely they were, but I mean, both teams looking dominant when they had control. This time it is flipping back and forth, and we'll have to see if Bromas is going to be able to hold on here with what I imagine is going to be a nano visor. He already unlocks it. Crank's definitely in a world of trouble here, already finds the kill on him, but everybody else is pulling back. I'm not sure what extra value he's going to find with that. Finds none.
Just 1 pick, and in the end, it was actually What 7 that was taken down there by Decode, so it's a decent trade for them right here. They can't afford to move in. Graviton Surge comes through there from Next. They are able to find a pick with the Pulse Bomb as well. Get a second one onto Toxican. There's a nice charge. Decode actually put to sleep of Endless, but he should be able to find that kill in the end. They've got a massive numbers advantage here for X Attacks, and at about 85%, they will be able to flip this one back in their favor, and they're going to need a couple of team fights big time in their favor if they don't want to go down 0-2 in the ball here.
We'll have to see if Linkser is able to deal with Envision here. I mean, they've done well so far when they've been able to deal with this Tracer early on to give themselves an advantage, and Linkser is a huge integral part of that. See, I mean, he's going to go for the hook here, more than likely. The teleport's coming out from Envision just to try to get rid of that. We already see Decode in there. He gets Earth Shattered, actually, by What 7, and Toxican going to be generating that ultimate there. Graviton Surge about to come out, more than likely. We'll have to see if they actually wind up doing it. It does indeed come out. They find Cranks and Nex on top of it, but Nex actually, almost takes out Toxican inside of the Graviton.
Linkser with the big hole hog there. I want to go back to what that play actually was, as we saw a big shatter come out from What 7, and then a big bio grenade able to connect onto Decode, who was actually nano boosted up. He got literally nothing, no value whatsoever off of that nano boost onto the Reinhardt. They did manage to get up to 91% here, because they've got about 10 seconds to look for a regroup. Not a whole lot to work with, though, on either end here. A couple ults. There's a shatter coming out from Decode. The sound barrier from Evoke as well. He gets actually laid to rest for a second there, but is going to be woken back up here. There's a couple of kills. Cranks now with the tactical visor picks up a couple before actually getting dropped by Bromas. In the end, it's a pretty back and forth fight. Bromas on the other side had the nano boost up. He's going to find the kill onto the Lucio and Decode, and that's going to be Dignitas taking round number 2.
The Dignitas definitely coming back with some storm there a little bit, I would say, and 2-0. Fashion that they win that second map, now going into the final map, which is going to be, what is it? Is it Shrine now, I think, that we haven't seen? I think it's Shrine. That is going to be the case. So now we're moving into map where really, I mean, X Alternate Attacks obviously has to win here if they want to be able to make a run, and we've seen some interesting stuff, in particular with Dignitas, actually, with runbacks that just didn't really work out, but we'll have to see if X Alternate Attacks is able to kind of poise themselves and put themselves in a similar situation that Dignitas was in yesterday, where they could maybe make a run back. But Obviously, we'll have to see if that's going to be the case. Dakota's already made some good plays here in Vision as well, putting in a lot of work. We saw Cranks really coming alive in that first map, but a lot more needs to be done if they want to be able to win out here. It all comes down to this first fight.
Been very back and forth in these first 2 rounds, aside from round 1, which was very close, but not back and forth by any means. As Broma's finding the kill onto the mech already of Nex, going to put them at a big upper advantage. Nice sleep dart. Bromas gets to recall to safety, thankfully here. One kill per side, but Nex is back in his mech here, and this is an opportunity for X Attacks to move in. As Toxican going to be taken down. They're going back to the supports. Vanless under a bit of pressure as well in the back line, and this is looking like still anybody's fight to take.
And Vanless getting pressured out. He is going to be killed there by Dakota, and that's going to be a late kill. We will see Accelerated Attacks just jumping onto the point, trying to get control of it here, but Dignitas not letting anything go initially. And Vision looking for a Pulse Bomb kill, throws it out, not going to find anything, almost kills himself there, actually. Linkster going to be able to turn around and find that kill on him. So still a bloodbath, as we do see the Sound Barrier come out very early on from Talaz there, and that should secure things for X Alternate Attacks.
Talaz has the first ultimate as a Lucio. That is something you do not really see very often whatsoever. And I mean, I don't know if it was, you know,
we did see Envision's
saving grace of that fight for them, but ultimately, you know, exit.
I think we're losing Storm a little bit. Nonetheless, Linkster going to be able to bring out that Dragon Blade, and we do see him finding that Met kill, looking for Nex as well, and it looks as though they might be able to turn this one back around, as that mech is huge for them. Crank's getting pressured down pretty low, and Vision finding a kill for himself as well, and Dignitas, ooh, Pulse Bomb comes out as well. That should secure things. They just need to find that kill on the Tracer, and that's Linkster looking for that one. Talaz on the point as well. They find it, and Vision incredibly low right now, just trying to hold on. I mean, they've been struggling to kill this guy all day so far.
And Dignitas actually retaining quite a few ultimates from that fight here, because they're able to save 4 of them. And going into the next one up against what we see here from X Attacks, not nearly what they have in comparison. I mean, for that Dragon Blade from Cranks, it's going to go straight into a Sound Barrier, or even just the Nano Visor from Toxican. So he's either, I feel like Cranks is going to have to come out with a miracle here if he wants this Dragon Blade to come out on top, as they look for a high ground approach. Gonna look to move in here. It's actually gonna be Watt7 and Linkster coming in there for something. Dragon Blade's out here from Cranks, looking for something. Sound Barrier as well. Tactical Visor comes out from Toxic and gets the Nano Boost up, but he doesn't find hardly anything. Gets 1 kill onto Envision in the end. The Primal Rage comes through as well from Watt7, finds the kill onto Ruby, but again, a very back and forth fight.
And Cranks forced away a little bit here from Vaneless, but they still need to throw this point back over, and Bromas just absolutely finding every kill that he possibly can at the moment, and taking that mech out. Just so many headshots in a row off that first clip right into that. And then we also see Cranks being taken out there by Linkster as he dives in as well, and it seems as though Dignitas actually going to be able to hold on to this one.
Throughout the entirety of that fight, Dignitas were maintaining control of the points, so they were able to take the lead here, now hitting about 63%, maybe a couple of team fights left to go for them to be able to take a swift 3-0 here on the Paul. We'll see what's going to happen. Sound Barrier is out there on the side of X Attacks here. They have nothing else to work with. Dragon Blade now from Linkster, looking for something here on the Ana. Not quite able to find him. Does get the pick for himself, but 3 kills, 4 kills on the other side. Linkster trying to be the champion for his squad. He needs to be, but X Attacks in the end find the kills on the front line. They make the flip.
I don't really agree with Linkster's ult decision there to be able to pull out the Dragon Blade. I mean, we already saw Decode coming together with the other members of the dive, just jumping in, finding 2 kills initially before the Dragon Blade even came out. I mean, they were already sitting in a 4v6 situation. I would say just take the death, or maybe just try to stall for as long as possible instead, and then, you know, come back with everything that you can possibly bring to the table right after. Vaneless actually going over to his Zenyatta at the moment, as opposed to the Ana that he was on before.
A bit of an interesting change up for those guys. There's a Primal Rage coming out from Decode, trying to knock him off the map. He will be taken down, but he found a few kills to go with him, fortunately. Cranks as well, bringing out the Dragon Blade, able to find a couple of picks. Now Toxican using Tactical Visor. I don't like that pickup at all here. He basically was in a 1v2 against a D.Va and a Tracer. Drops the Tactical Visor. I think there was plenty of time for him to get out or get a regroup and then use that in the next fight.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he knew about the D.Va there, but nonetheless, we also saw the Pulse Bomb come out, so it is a little bit of a 1-for-1. We are seeing Watt7 just doing his best to try to get on the point and just establish control. Vaneless putting discords out to try to help out the damage pressure that they need to be able to have for kills. And we see the self-destruct coming out once again here. Not going to find anything initially, as Linkster already took out Nex outside of that mech. So very good job from him to be able to finish that kill off. And it looks as though Dignitas should be able to flip things around, and they do indeed. Ooh. Late kill onto Cranks as well. If they kill off Decode, that, I mean, they basically just secured it with that late kill on Decode right there. There's nobody that's going to be able to create that pressure on the point. I mean, other than really Nex, but they should be able to take him out very quickly. It's just going to be a stall fight now.
It is. There's a quick kill coming out onto Tally's there. He's just going to be dropped instantly. Diva's out of the mech. Diva's taken down. Pulse Bomb coming out from Bromas. Picks up the kill onto Ruby. And a terrific comeback again from Dignitas. Will secure the 3-0 win here on Nepal, putting them up 1-0 in this best of 3 series.
Really great performance there from Dignitas. We talked about before how important it was for them to win on this first map, because now the map pool doesn't really affect them as much. I imagine Alternate Attacks will probably pull out one of the 2 CPs here. Likely, I mean, I would probably choose Volskaya, given the performance that we saw Dignitas have yesterday on that particular map, really falling short in their matchup yesterday. But we'll have to see if that's going to be the case. Obviously, if that doesn't go their way, Dignitas could always pull out Hollywood. They looked very, very efficient on that particular map. Certainly, I think they should be able to take it against Alternate Attacks, but having this first map under their belt, I think, is going to be big to be able to now move on into these last 2 maps. I think Dignitas had basically secured this series for themselves with that particular map win.
Kind of got to agree on the map selection here. With the match that was that close, I feel like, you know, X Attacks being at a little bit of a disadvantage. I think if they were to head into other maps such as like Dorado or Hollywood in the map pool, you know, I feel like they would still drop that. But if we head to like Volskaya, for instance, like we had mentioned, I'm feeling like, you know, there's a little bit more variability in terms of like what's going to happen there. Anything can pretty much happen on 2 CPs. So I'm looking for that pick potentially here to come out from X Attacks. But I don't know, Hurix. That was some big-time comebacks, especially in that first round from Dignitas being down 99-0 and then coming back and taking all 3 rounds. What do you think X Attacks kind of need to shape up here to just come over that little hump to be able to come out on top in some of those rounds and then potentially this next map?
Well, I think a lot of it comes down to execution, right? I mean, with the dive composition, you need to be able to jump on the same target, find those picks very, very efficiently, and they need to be, I mean, really kind of important picks too. I mean, time and time again, you saw Vaneless. Even Vaneless had the opportunity to swap over to that Zenyatta and still be just as effective as he would be on an Ana, which has certainly, I think, a little bit more dueling potential. But you know, time and time again, I was on actually the POV of, I believe, Decode, and he would jump on Vaneless. He would be on him by himself. I mean, he would get Vaneless incredibly low, and, you know, we would sometimes see Cranks doing it solo as well, but it was never together. They were never really committing and executing together, and we will see actually Hollywood come out, which is very interesting given Dignitas' performance yesterday, but maybe X Alternate Attacks thinks that they have a little bit something under their sleeve. Tal is more than likely going to be on the defensive side picking up Torbjorn, as we saw him do yesterday on Numbani. We'll have to see if they want to go with that still, though. But nonetheless, I mean, like I said, it all comes down to execution. You need to be able to find those support picks in a dive-style composition like that, or just, I mean, even if it's like a frontline pick or anything like that, you need to be able to jump on everybody together. We saw really good stuff from United being able to pull that off in the past, particularly with Cruz and Valentaya, but this doesn't seem to be executed as well or as efficiently, and I think that's a big thing for them to be able to kind of create a little bit of an advantage for themselves if they're able to kind of adapt and change things up and just be more effective with the composition that they've selected for themselves.
Well, it looks like we're going to have a swap of sides as well, as it looks like X Attacks want to go ahead and be on the attack this time around. I guess, you know, on Nepal it doesn't really matter, but they're going to be changing colors here. So X Attacks on the offense to get things started, which will put Dignitas on the defense. And heading into this second game here, you know, if Dignitas take this, of course, they're going to get their first win in Group B, and that would set X Attacks at an 0-2 record. Definitely not a good way to start. So X Attacks here up against Dignitas. You know, the way you spoke about Dignitas moving to Hollywood here, I'm assuming that's going to be your pick to be able to take a pretty quick 2-0 in this series.
Yeah, I think Dignitas should be able to do this, but I'm curious to see what X Alternate Attacks has got under their sleeve. I mean, certainly you would kind of think that with pulling out a map that you know Dignitas performed well on yesterday, I mean, a pretty solid performance. what can you bring to the table that you think will really kind of set yourself up to be at a distinct advantage? I'm curious to see what they think that's going to be, and we will see Ruby actually coming out on that Zenyatta pick, and of course throughout the open qualifier, I think he was a standout player for this particular roster on the Ana, and on this map in particular, actually, I remember him being very much a standout. So interesting to see that they are actually bringing out that Zenyatta. I think they're going to be going more than likely for a dive style composition, and we will see them utilizing this Zenyatta to try to create a little bit of extra damage, and then setting themselves up to be a little bit ahead as well in terms of that ultimate progression and being ahead in the economy. But on the other side of things, on the defensive side, we will see Dignitas pulling out that triple tank composition that does prove effective for them, and we will see Bromas as that solo damage dealer on the soldier here, setting himself up and more than likely going to be kind of positioned very close to Veinless to be able to support one another if anything does dive on top of them. But looking at this, we do see the 2-2-2 coming out. Still a dive here as Nex is on that Diva, so they still have a lot of aggression in this particular composition, and I expect them to just dive right onto Bromas as well as Veinless here in the opening stages of this fight.
Also putting Ruby on that Zenyatta here. I'm looking at the code to look to get a jump into the back line here. He's going to jump straight for it. They find an immediate pick there onto Watt 7. That's a great start for these guys. Not a whole lot of front line now remains. He is just melting the back line. Gets put to sleep. Welcome back up though. Linkster is going to be taken down. And this is looking like X Attacks moving in really quickly to this point A. Should be able to get a very, very swift point A capture.
And we're seeing them just working a lot more together now. We see a lot of healing coming out from Veinless, and he's doing a good job of maintaining his teammates, but that's not going to be enough, as just too much control was given up there to X alternate attacks to be able to hold on to that one.
Very surprising to see Dignitas after such a close but dominant in a way performance on Nepal, just giving up that first checkpoint within about a minute time. We'll have to see how aggressive they want to get with this. We're gonna see Dakota move into the back here. Crank's coming out here with the Dragon Blade, finds one onto Toxicin, gets a second onto Veinless now. Nano Boost was used there from Veinless, but it didn't really make much of a difference. Bromas with the Tactical Visor picks up a couple of kills for himself, but in the end, Hurix, it doesn't really seem to make the difference.
So let's talk about what just happened. We saw Veinless, Bromas, and Toxicin all use their ultimates to actually zero effect. Toxicin's Graviton eaten up there by Nex. The Nano Boost didn't really accomplish too much, didn't really get the spacing that they wanted, and Bromas pulling out his Tactical Visor found no picks at all there. And now we're seeing a lot of force swaps happening. Watt 7 and Toxicin making those swaps, and already they're trying to put some damage onto this Zenyatta, and he just baits everybody out, has that Transcendence already going for himself.
Yeah, I think that was just more or less to save one guy who's a little overextended. Now they're going to go ahead and use the Sound Barrier to see what they can get with it. Sound Barrier comes out from Evoked as well, but Watt 7 is already down here. An unfortunate start, I think, for the defensive end, as it doesn't look like X Attacks have really lost anybody. Crank's finding a couple of kills for himself back and forth with the dash, and again here, X Attacks are melting the side of Dignitas and going to be able to get themselves that second checkpoint, and over 5 minutes, I think, to be able to come through with the final checkpoint. Bromas pops the Tactical Visor. He's immediately taken down here, and Dignitas are on just the back foot right now, really struggling to get a grip on this game.
And now certainly Dignitas, who probably saw that map pick and was probably feeling pretty good about it, definitely not feeling good about it anymore, as they've just been getting run over. I mean, this has actually just been a stampede of X alternate attacks members just all over them, trampling Dignitas throughout this map here, and now all the way into this final stage of the map, where they have over 5 minutes to accomplish this goal of just getting it to the VIP stage in that parking lot there. But nonetheless, Linkster with the only ult charged up here for Dignitas, looking for some picks with this pulse bomb, gets the stick there, already got the kill with the clip though, really, so all it really accomplishes is just a little bit of splash damage onto Talus. They do find that kill as well, and it looks like they're finally mounting their first solid defense, as Decode actually gets away with about 5 HP there from Linkster.
And this is usually where you start, if you see
1 HP.
Just dominant. Yeah, if you do see a dominant push on point A and the second checkpoint, this is usually where you start to see the defense, make a stand. Their ults start to catch up to what we see from the offensive end, though the offense still has 3 to work with, almost 4 and 5 from Ruby and Talus there. So I'd be very surprised to not see them be able to come through with a pretty quick capture, but there is a pulse bomb out as well, and Vision picks up nothing, unfortunately, but Cranks with the Dragon Blade able to find one, looking for the Zarya, who is able to kind of back off of that here. Still, X-Attack's cruising forward here. Nano Boost going to be dropped here onto Bromas. Does he want to pop the Tactical Visor? He's not going to actually do that here because there's a defense matrix sitting in his face. Sound Barrier as well comes out. Bromas gets the D.Va out of the mech, and this is when he's going to pop the Tac Visor. This should be an easy cleanup coming out for Dignitas.
Yeah, but initially, I mean, they are more than likely going to manage to clean this one up, but Bromas made one of the mistakes that we see almost every soldier making, which is just holding down left click until the cows come home, you know? I mean, he was just holding that down and woke up Decode, who was primal raged in Vaneless's face, and allowed Vaneless to just allowed Decode to just wake back up and continue that onslaught. Luckily for the team, I mean, Dignitas, they were able to kind of turn everything back around, and Bromas was a big reason why, but they definitely don't want to have things like that happening. When Vaneless lands those really clutch sleeps on things like Primal Rage and guys ulting, you really want to keep them asleep.
Transcendence coming into that Sound Barrier. I think it was a pulse bomb out from Linkster, so it was Ruby that wanted to make sure everyone was kept healthy for the most part. Though Watt7 finding the first pick there on the Cranks. Linkster returns fires to 2 for 2 right now, but in the end, Dignitas are coming out on top with the picks here. Still, it's Decode under a little bit of heat, and he's going to be dropped, and that's going to get another reset here for Dignitas.
We'll see Dignitas holding out in this last stage of the map pretty well here. Good positioning there as well to Dignitas, as Bromas has just gotten himself up on RV, and Watt7 just holding out. They have Graviton coming up pretty soon. That's going to be on Toxican. And he got the last one eaten up by Nex, but Nex is not going to be in a position to do that this time, as he's not on the D.Va, he's on the Zarya himself. Definitely looking to see a huge value Graviton come out in this next fight. And it does come out, and they find a lot with it.
We're going to go ahead and use the Nano Boost onto Watt7. He's just going to melt them down here, at least get a few squishies still here, because it was a 2 for 3 in favor of the offensive end, who I think are just going to go ahead and maybe back off this. There's a Shatter coming out from Decode. They pick up a few more off of it. They still have a Dragon Blade. They still have a Pulse Bomb. No one is even in range of the payload aside from the Tracer and Evoke on that Lucio. Linkster is forced to recall here. There's a Dragon Blade coming out now from Cranks. Finds the Lucio, finds Linkster. All he needs to deal with now is the Primal Raged Winston. Tactical Visor comes out as well. He gets put to sleep and taken down by Ruby himself. What a big pickup coming out there for the side of Alternate Attacks, who have such an advantage now. They just need to take care of this D.Va and Winston.
Yeah, man. I mean, Bromas didn't just get put to sleep. Like, that guy just got clotheslined by a sleep dart. And that is going to secure it. 129, the final time in the time bank there for X Alternate Attacks, as they push the payload the entire distance. And while Dignitas did make a hold there at the end of the map, they definitely got themselves into a position where they might be able to, you know, get a little bit better of a time for themselves. Saw them attacking yesterday with a little bit more time on the clock than that, so perhaps they can make a pretty good effort on the attacking side as things swap up, and perhaps they can turn this one back around. But the first two stages of the map definitely in favor of X Alternate Attacks, as they were just, again, just trouncing Dignitas. I mean, literally trampling them as if it was a stampede, as we mentioned before.
Even the third checkpoint, I mean, of course, the first two were clearly all of X Alternate Attacks, just stomping those guys. But, you know, you usually see somewhat of a hold before that third checkpoint. Dig was able to hold them off for a couple of minutes, but even finishing with 129 is, you know, in and of itself is a pretty big pickup, I think, for X Attacks, who initially dropped 0-3 on Nepal and now have an opportunity to hold them off and potentially push this to a game number 3 here. So I think they're sitting in a pretty solid spot. The big question mark for me, though, is what sort of a defense are they really going to be able to put up here with the composition they have? Dakota, of course, going to be making the change over from the Sombra, probably going over to something like a Reinhardt. We'll have to actually see what he wants to pick out here. But yeah, on that end, yep, it is going to be Reinhardt. So they're going with the 2-2-2 setup, but we haven't really seen a defense from them just yet today. So I'm really interested to see what's going to happen here from their side.
Yeah, we saw them yesterday on Numbani, and, you know, they did okay, but it wasn't really anything to write home about. And now, obviously, their big goal here is to try to shut down Dignitas if they can, but we are going to be seeing a dive composition coming out. I imagine some swaps happening at the last second here, and that's not going to be the case. We have a double sniper composition starting out for Dignitas. I imagine Toxican going to be making that swap, but Linkster looking for a pick himself, and those snipers are now going to swap back over. Toxican is going to that Pharah, Linkster going over to the Genji here.
So a bit of a dive comp coming out here from this squad. Of course, we aren't going to have a Far Mercy. It's just going to be the Far up in the skies. They have a bit to actually deal with it with Ruby and Cranks, and Cranks actually finding that first pick on Evoke. Going to get himself a little bit of that early ult charge, which is definitely a good start when you're going up against that Pharah.
We will see some pressure going out from Dignitas, but not too much. They're just poking a little bit, and we're seeing a little bit of a 1v2 here, or rather 2v1 from this perspective of Envision getting pressure down. Oh, and actually the team kills Envision, as we do see Linkster getting that reflect kill, and they're going to be able to jump on top of that, but Bromas eliminated. That's going to be a 5v5 as both Tracers are taken out.
And that pick really opened up a window of opportunity for Toxican to get a little bit of ground here and kind of push himself away from the Soldiers 76. Nonetheless, Dignitas still on the back foot. It looks like they are going to be forced out of this one. Ruby finds a hit there onto Toxican, still needing to deal with this Pharah. Is he going to be able to do it? It looks like Toxican is in a bad spot. Pops out the barrage, picks up one before Ruby is able to find that kill onto her.
I don't like that barrage at all. I think they could have done a lot more with it later on, but nonetheless, they were in a pretty dire situation. They wanted to make the most of it. Pulse Bomb going to be able to take out Linkster, as we do see What7 all over Decode here, and he gets actually nano boosted up.
Yeah, so does the Reinhardt. Gets nano boosted. Both of those tanks are up and trying to get each other taken down. Sound Barrier now comes out for the offensive end. The Earthshatter comes through. Dakota only manages to hit one. Unfortunately, there's no follow-up as the tactical visor from Cranks was immediately shut down. Toxican picks up a couple for himself, and this is maybe the best opportunity yet for Dignitas to move forward, but they still have to deal with both tanks. It's just the Pharah and the Tracer here. Tracer finds the kill on Decode, and maybe they are going to be able to come through with this one as next pops a Whole Hog. I don't like the Whole Hog being popped whatsoever because he isn't able to move onto the point, Jurix, and that gives point A over to Dignitas.
After a very odd ult usage on that first barrage that actually came up, I mean, Toxican just became a monster, just turned completely savage on him, just landed a couple of body shots right into Talas there, and they're going to be able to push this payload forward. Again, I mean, that you really want to see them, if you're a Dignitas fan at the moment, you want to see them pushing with a little bit, with a little bit more firepower. I think they really want to be able to find these frags a little bit faster because they don't have, I mean, a huge amount of time to be able to take an advantage. They already find 2 kills though, and certainly Dignitas definitely looking like they're going to be turning things around a bit, and Crank's getting pressured there by the Pharah. Toxican all over him right now.
Big plays from Linkster, found a pick onto Lucio, then deflects the sleep dart, and then just able to find that easy kill onto the Ana. So 2 support kills with the Dragon Blade for Linkster is going to help them push this payload a little bit further, a little bit slower for pace as well from Dignitas, but if they can keep at this sort of, pace being set, winning a few more team fights here, buying themselves another minute 30 on the board, they should be in a decent position moving forward.
We're seeing them set up. We Sound Barrier coming out there from Talas. That's going to open things up. We already see the Nano Boost coming out as well.
To see what they're able to actually make of it, as Decode really not getting a whole lot off of it. Wat7, of course, coming out here with his Primal Rage, trying to knock them all about. They find the pick there on the Vaneless, so Ruby will be taken down as well. Both Winston's kind of sitting on the payload here. Pulse Bomb's out here. Bromas picks up the kill onto Decode, gets a little bit of damage out as well. But in the end, it looks like the defense should be able to hold on strong. Links are going to be pushed off of the payload here with 240 remaining.
Not a lot of options if you're Dignitas right now. However, on the other side of things, I mean, looking good to be able to make that second hold next now on the Diva. Looking to hold things out a little bit, and they do give up that high ground now to Dignitas, who are up there. Of course, they can kind of take it whenever they want with those particular characters.
Nice sleep dart from Vaneless, and Vision does get to recall. They didn't really follow up off of that. I feel like they had 3 or 4 in the area. Could have easily found that pick and moved into the fight 5-on-6 here, but not going to be the case as Bromas gets the first pick there onto Decode, gets next out of the mech as well. That's a great start here for the offensive end. Sound Barrier now comes out on the side of Evoke, trying to move this payload forward. Pulse Bomb comes through as Envision doesn't find anything. All the kills are being lit up here for Dignitas in the kill feed, who will be able to secure the second checkpoint now and buy themselves 315 to complete the map.
And they should be able to find the kill on Talas here as they're getting aggressive, and I do imagine that they're going to be able to hunt that one down. Bromas all over that, but they're going to just let it go. It's getting a little bit too close for comfort to that enemy spawn. Bromas just making that last check there. I remember him doing that yesterday on attack, just not going to be able to find anything once again here. And nonetheless, Toxican going over to that Zarya for this stage of the map here to try to get a Graviton for that last fight, perhaps, and we will see Bromas charged up with that Pulse Bomb, looking for an opportunity to take one of these tanks out more than likely with it.
Dragon Blade comes out from Cranks. He gets nano boosted up, finds one pick there on Evoke, looking to get behind that particle barrier coming out from Toxican. Finds 3 pickups with the single nano blade Purix. So that's a good start here for X Attacks on the defensive end to buy themselves a little bit more time. And with about 1 minute to go in terms of evening the times out, it looks like X Attacks should certainly have the better time to work with if Dignitas do complete the map.
They really have. I mean, Dignitas has 2 fights, with the last one being a very long staggered fight for them to be able to hold this one out, and not a lot of time to accomplish both of those W's. And now we see Linkser finding that trade kill when they have no business doing just that. Decode should be taken out here as he's singled out and zoned out as well, and they should be able to engage here. Dignitas with an opportunity to really kind of make the most of this Nano Blade, and he's already taken out 2 there with the dash as well.
Gets 2 with 1 swing of the blade, and they clean it up here. I still have to admire the aggressiveness coming out from X Attacks to get the last 2 fights underway. I mean, they moved in with only a sound barrier at that last fight, found the picks, and got about another 30+ seconds off the clock. Now, they are even in times. Dignitas will certainly have a slower time, but the best they can hope for right now is to make sure they don't finish in overtime. And Vision with a pick, though, on the Veinless to get things started with that Pulse Bomb. There's another pick on the Bromas in the back. Look at him. He is melting these guys. No one is dealing with the Tracer of X Attacks, and they are well on their way to making a hold if they're able to keep up this momentum.
I think a little bit of a misplay there from Toxican. Had that projected barrier at the ready, Veinless got Pulse Bombed, and Toxican unable to make that play to not only save him, but get that little bit of extra energy, and they would have been able to really kind of push from that point. He's so close to that Graviton. If he had that extra energy, he might have been able to find the damage. They still would have had Veinless up, and they might have been able to get that Graviton out in time to where they could have been able to push this one. Now they're not going to really have a lot at their disposal. Nanoblade coming out there from Cranks as he's just looking for some kills. Does get the first one into what, 7? Already taking a second one as well.
There's another Dragon Blade, though, out for Linkser. Cranks is super low. Linkser picks up 3 kills to return fire. Purix, even though that happened, Decode goes ahead. He pops the Primal Rage to knock him about. I don't think the Primal Rage was necessary, but with 17 HP, he just needs to hit him once here. Does he get the kill? Nice heals coming through from Veinless. Keeps him alive, but Purix, 15 seconds to go. They will not be able to finish with any time, which means it's going to be either X Attacks winning the map or X Attacks being the only ones to push a second time here. Let's get this one underway. Toxican ready to go with the Graviton Surge. Pulse Bomb coming out there, not able to find a kill, but Linkser starting things out on the right foot. Gets a kill. Self-destruct is actually forced out from Nex. Doesn't find any kills. He doesn't actually get back into the mech. There's the Graviton Surge. Only actually connects onto one of them in the end. Picks up the kill. Dignitas are starting to move this payload forward.
We will see Decode more than likely dealt with here as they find this one Dragon Blade coming out there from Linkser, and he's unable to find anything. Finally gets that kill on the elusive Tracer of Envision, and they should be able to take this mech out as well, but still, they're going to have a lot to deal with as people are just staggering it in, but they eventually should be able to take this. Dignitas more than likely to close this one out. And now the best that they can hope for is a tie with 129 on the clock for the attacking side here. That is going to be X Alternate Attacks.
So X Attacks with 129 to make one push to try to capture that point A. Should they take it, Hurix, that means we're going to be headed to a map 3. And if they don't, that means we're going to head to a best of 3 on Oasis to determine the victor of this map. And given the fact that a 3-0 was came out there from Dignitas on Nepal to get this series started, you got to think that maybe they actually have a decent shot to push this to Oasis and take the best of 3 there.
Well, this is a little bit different, the way that this one operates. We will see, I mean, if it does go into a tiebreaker, or if it does go into a draw on this particular map, what will happen is we'll move into the third map regardless of whatever happens. So it will be a draw if that actually is the case, and then we'll move into the next map. Now, if the next map leads to a 1-1-1, so if we do see the victor of that third map after a draw on this one actually be X Alternate Attacks, then we will do the tiebreaker on that tiebreaker map. However, if it goes in favor of Dignitas, or I believe also if that particular map ties, then Dignitas is at an advantage and they win the series 1-0-2, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure that's how that works.
All right, forgive me. My first time here on the Overwatch pit, after the past few days. So I guess that is how it's going to be going down here. So let's see if alternate attacks are actually able to come through with about 120-ish to be able to get this point A. They're going to dive straight onto it to get things started. Their best kind of approach they could hope for to just maybe see if they can find it right away. If not, they have plenty of time to regroup, but the first pick onto Decode will come through. They return fire with one of their own onto Watt. And Vision lighting up the feed here. He finds 2 kills for himself here because they need to find a way to deal with the Tracer.
Man, it's looking like X alternate attacks should be able to get this one. They already found just too many kills. The stick coming out, and Vision going to secure that kill. The last one on the point is Evoke, and
wow.
Oh man, X alternate attacks going to be able to close this one out for sure. I have to say, Storm.
What an impressive push, and what an impressive Tracer from Envision. There's a Dragon Blade now coming out from Cranks. That should honestly surely seal this one for them. They're at about 2 ticks now, 30 seconds to go. They do lose Cranks. Diva's back on the point in time. They've got a few people contesting here. We'll have to see as Bromas pops to Tactical Advisor, looking for something. He has a Winston on top of him. He doesn't find anything. He's taken down. Talus now with that sound barrier to keep his teammates alive. Is able to affect, I believe, 4 or 5 of them in the mix. Primal Rage ready to go from Decode. He's going to knock them all off the point. Watt 7 going to be taken down. A bit of a scare, I'd say, for X Attacks here, but I think they have this in the bag.
They should be able to pull this one out. That series, I mean, they just were so good on their attacking side, much more efficient. Like I said, I mean, they just, on that first map on Nepal, they weren't really diving together. They weren't really finding those picks together, and because of that, Dignitas was able to pull back, regroup, get a better positioning, and, just kind of deal with things as they come and take their picks a little bit more slowly and a little bit more decisively. This time around, things looked completely different as we saw X alternate attacks diving together, always jumping on the same target there for the most part. Vanless was struggling to deal with the pressure of both Cranks and Envision, and even at times Decode as well when he was on the Winston. And this is things as they kind of close out with Cranks just finding kill after kill. I'm not really sure why that was the play of the game. I think we saw some better plays, but nonetheless, that is going to be X alternate attacks going ahead and actually evening things up here, 1-1 now in this matchup between Dignitas and X alternate attacks.
So it will all come down to this final map. Let's see what Dignitas actually want to go with here. I've got a little bit of a selection to work with, but just kind of a big turnaround from X Attacks there. I mean, going into that after Dignitas's performance yesterday, we were kind of thinking, okay, they've got the upper hand. Why would X Attacks pick that map? And I guess we could see it right there. 129 was plenty of time to work with for them to be able to capture that point A and take the second map here. What are you kind of expecting, I guess, for a map number 3 to come out from Dignitas?
Well, for Dignitas, I mean, I really thought that Hollywood would have been their map, and now I'm worried about Numbani because that would have been the follow-up, in my opinion, if I was them. But now that they lost Hollywood, and granted, it was kind of close. I mean, I still would worry because X alternate attacks, their dive is like, I mean, it's looking pretty solid on those particular maps like Hollywood. So now the question is, they have the ability to go over to Volskaya, and it's not really looking that good on that particular map given their performance yesterday. And then there's obviously Numadi, but I wouldn't go for that one.
Hanamura, though.
Okay, so we will see Hanamura coming out there, and I was going to say that Hanamura is probably really the only option on the table at the moment for them, given the fact that Volskaya defense didn't really look so solid for them. They just didn't really hold out too well in their matchup yesterday, and Nimbani, given what X alternate attacks was able to do in that last map there on Hollywood, I would be very, very worried about dealing with the dive going into Nimbani, especially on that first point. I mean, I think it would look very much like what you saw in overtime there from X alternate attacks, and Dignitas would be falling short a little bit there and having to battle back throughout the street phases. Now on Hanamura, it's a little bit more of a toss-up. It's a little bit more of a 50-50. I mean, they have a couple of options there for the defensive side, particularly on that second point. And I think that what we're going to be seeing from Dignitas is trying to kind of emulate what we saw yesterday from Misfits, which is, the first point might not go your way every single time, but on second point, you have a lot more flexibility in terms of how to defend and how to come back and take advantage of that spawn point advantage as well on defense. And maybe Dignitas is going to be able to, again, emulate that same kind of strategy, same mentality, get a lot of time off of that first point, and then just take advantage in the second, and then get their attack, really execute properly to be able to close out with a 2-point lead. But I mean, obviously, again, this is still a 50-50 toss-up on this particular map, and this has really kind of come down to a gamble because Hollywood, which maybe should have been Dignitas' map, at least in my opinion, just going into this one. Alternate attacks just look too strong. I would stay away from them on Numbani as well, and your only other options are 2CP, Hanamura, and Volskaya just didn't look good yesterday, so I would just... Hanamura was the best pick, I think.
The loser of this map going to be, of course, Yerkes dropping 0-2 in Group B, which, you know, that's not how you want to be starting out your Group B performance, especially with not too many games left to go from both sides. So, you know, I've got to ask you, who do you think is going to actually be able to come out on top here on Hanamura and you know, move up to 1-1 in the standings?
It's hard to say. I mean, I think Dignitas should be able to close this one out, but I think that this is going to be incredibly close. I think we're going to be seeing a lot of that kind of classic 2CP stalling happening in this particular matchup as well. And I think a lot's going to come down to, you know, that second point. Who's able to really capitalize on having a little bit of an ult advantage? I think both teams should be able to cap out the first. Like I said, it's really just going to come down to who's able to close out on that second. And I don't really think we're going to be seeing too much. I mean, we might see some really, really fast capping, actually, because obviously, you know, I think, what was it? I think it was Monday for us or something like that. We saw a lot of points being scored. What was it, 8-7 or something like that?
8-7, that was on Hollywood.
Yeah, on Hollywood. But I don't know. I mean, with the dive comp, I mean, defensively, we are going to be seeing Talus on the Torbjorn. There was a little bit of talk about this yesterday, although I was muted when I was saying these things, unfortunately. But I will be able to talk about it now. So I don't know, silver linings, I guess. Talus often does actually bring this up on defense. They do kind of like to run Ruby as that solo healer. Talus bringing out the armor packs for the team. And then, of course, also providing a little bit of extra damage pressure to to guys like Bromus, who are more than likely going to be on Tracer, and giving them a little bit more to deal with, and Linkser as well to an extent. And we will see that being pulled out, and Talus actually just throwing that one in the corner where he's going to be able to kind of stay back, more than likely not going to be standing near that at all, and allowing that turret to really kind of just put in some pressure into the back of guys like Bromus and Linkser, and even to some extent the supports as well, as he's just kind of laying some damage in. But we will see on the defensive side a 2-2-2 here, Decode on the Winston. Very consistent on this particular character so far. And on the attacking side, we are going to be seeing a full dive here. That's going to be 1 tank, 3 DPS, and 2 supports.
Curious to see what sort of an impact Toxikin will be able to make on the Pharaoh up against that Torbjorn, and if he's going to be able to take care of him for the most part. Nice concussive blast to get things started, going to take them off of the high ground. Linkser does actually find that turret, so they see the Torbjorn is going to be spotted out here. Let's see what Talus is able to get with it. He actually only gets a few percentage off that. Finds another pick for themselves. So the dive comp working out pretty well to get things started here as the first pick comes out onto the Torbjorn. A big window of opportunity now for Dignitas to move in.
What is this? I mean, Dignitas is just in their heads at the moment. They just completely obliterated Talus, and now he's forced to go over to that Lucio because he doesn't have that little bit of advantage of the first fight being won. And now we're going to be seeing Ruby more than likely taken out here on the point as well. And once he is, Dignitas at a very, very strong advantage in this point fight, where we do see Next taken out of the mech as well. And man, this is looking like a different Dignitas here.
Talus, of course, moves over to the Lucio, immediately taken down by the Dragon Blade from Linkser, who picked up a kill on the Nex as well. He should be able to find this kill on the Genji. He will just go ahead with the melee, find the kill. That's going to be a pretty quick capture, about 1:15 coming out there from Dignitas. Find themselves 6:40 on the clock to try to get this second checkpoint.
I think it was a big mistake there. They had the advantage in numbers. They have the spawn advantage as well in terms of distance covered. But, well, for most people coming back, obviously some people with mobility skills are going to be able to get back pretty quick on defense as well. But Linkser pulling out that Dragon Blade, I think, is a big mistake. They really wanted to be able to use the Nano with him on this fight to be able to just really kind of step up and make a huge impact on the second fight. But Crank's now going to be able to turn everything back around with a little Dragon Blade of his own. And they easily wipe the floor with Dignitas, pushing them back to the spawn here. 6 minutes remaining on the time bank for Dignitas to make a move here on this second point here on Hanamura.
Kind of gotta agree with the Dragon Blade assessment there from Linkser. I mean, that checkpoint B, the first push, is always the most dangerous one, and the fact that he didn't have that available to work with from Baneless pretty much makes Baneless kind of not useless, but his ultimate really not going to be making much of an impact. Didn't even use it there, of course. It was Cranks that was just able to light them up for the most part here. Let's see what they're able to get done this time around. Nano Boost comes out onto Envision. He pops the Tactical Visor now, looking for the D.Va in the mech. Doesn't really find a whole lot. Gets D.Va out of the mech, eventually finds the pick for himself. as X Attacks will be able to hold on strong here and make this second push kind of mean nothing on the side of Dignitas.
Really good biotic grenade offensively coming out from Ruby there to be able to shut that healing down a little bit. Oh, almost takes out the Tracer there, who is going to be able to find some healing. Bromas back to that health pack, but nonetheless, ult stacking up a little bit here on the side of Dignitas, but the defense is certainly not lacking in the firepower themselves. Tau is going to be pretty close to that sound barrier as well, should be able to hold out from a lot of this pressure, primarily that might come out from Linkser here, as finally they do come together with that particular ult combination of that Nano Blade that I imagine they want to use here, and they do instantaneously.
He actually made a missed jump there, gets 2 kills with 1 swing of the blade. Again, gets Envision and both Ruby to kind of make up for his not really a good dash that was supposed to go onto the Lucio to find something. Unfortunately, though, it is going to be Evoke taking down Linkser, comes up with another kill for himself. Pretty back and forth here, but of course, the defense going to be at such an advantage on the respawns here. And I don't think they're even able to find a 1 tick here. I mean, Dakota's still in the area, so is Dallas here. Sleep Dart going to come on to Toxican. He'll be taken out of the mech, and just like that, that offensive push going to be laid to rest.
And X Alternate Attacks just holding out on this second point so well. Obviously, we know that this point in particular is very, very, very hard to get, especially given the fact that the defense can really kind of take advantage of those spawns, and Next going ahead and making a little bit of a hoop for himself and scoring a basket there. But nonetheless, we are going to be seeing Ruby more than likely going together with Cranks in this next one and get a Nano Blade of their own. Linkser found a couple of kills initially with some aggression coming out from theirs the last time, and I imagine Cranks should be able to find some kills for himself, and they should be able to win this next fight, but we'll have to see if any kind of stellar plays can be made on the side of Dignitas to be able to shut that one down, and that's really going to be on Vaneless here.
There's a Nano Blade from Cranks now, looking for something here. He's actually getting taken down decently low. Nothing available. Actually does pick up a kill onto Watt 7. Evoke is well going to be taken down, and the 2 picks itself will pretty much force the offensive end to back off. The Bromas comes through with a nice pick with the Helix, but even though here it's that they found these picks around the side here, there's no opportunity for them to move in because they're already down a few members. By the time they get onto the point, the respawns will be there from the offensive end. So 3 minutes remaining. Last 3.5 minutes, nothing really has come of it on the side of Dignitas.
And Envision, what he's been doing in these last couple of fights is with these late kills that he's been able to get on guys like Linkser, that's got to be incredibly disheartening for Dignitas, who are just probably, I mean, really just trying their best to hold on now and maintain their composure so that they can get control of this second point and finally move themselves onto defense. Envision just has been doing such a good job of being a pest to them, and now we do see the pulse bomb at the ready, and he's looking for Vaneless, it looks like initially, but then going to pull off.
Linkser now with the Dragon Blade again here. What can he get done with it? He gets boomed back, and he literally gets nothing off, no value whatsoever with that Dragon Blade here, as 3 of them are now down here for the offensive end. And again, going to get a full reset on the defensive side of things, and Cranks and Ruby back up to about 60 to 70% on their ultimates, looking for this next fight with 2 minutes to go here. This is looking like Dignitas really just don't have anything working for them, and I think the best opportunity they have is maybe this next push with the Nano Visor.
They really, I mean, they really need to execute very, very effectively to get through this defense being put out by X Alternate Attacks. They're just being so strong, I mean, so coordinated in the way that they have been attacking here. We do see the ultimates coming out here from Bromos. That's the Nano Visor. He's not going to find anything initially. They do take the mech out. That's going to open up the opportunity for Dignitas to find these kills, but they need to find them quickly as Cranks is coming alive himself. Dragon Blade at the ready.
Actually went ahead and used a Nano Boost on Decode. Unfortunately here, Cranks doesn't want to use the Dragon Blade just yet. I don't think he even needs to, as they find a few picks for themselves, and they're just going to get the full regroup. So the Nano Boost, again, well used onto the Winston here.
No ticks.
I know, no ticks whatsoever. I mean, they were about, what, maybe pretty close, maybe like 25-ish, 30%. So very close to getting 1 tick over that last fight in 1 minute. But with 1 minute left to go, they're looking at 2, maybe 3 ultimates on the offensive end. You still have a Dragon Blade to work with from Cranks. And if he's able to get anything done like he has in the last few fights with it, this should be X Attacks making a hold before the second checkpoint is actually captured.
And X Attacks with Cranks' ult still. Ruby not going to be able to nano boost that, but surely we'll see Cranks actually come alive. He finds the kill on Evoke, which is going to be big because that's the sound barrier taken out of the equation here.
30 seconds, so I think they just need to back off of this. They're wasting more time. Linkster, what are you doing, man? Get out of this fight. He doesn't get to safety. No, just wastes even more time, and this is a long run to point B for the offensive end. I don't even know if Linkster is able to get there with the rest of the squad. Evoke is back in the spawn trying to make sure he gets there in time. I guess he can go around the left side. 9 seconds to go. You're looking at 4 to 5 ultimates to work with on the side of X attacks.
Certainly, Linkster needs to come up big in this particular Genji versus Genji matchup where Cranks already has the sound barrier, does have a little Dragon Blade of his own, gets put to sleep there. That's Ruby, I think. And he comes out of the spawn here with Tawas, and they're looking to re-engage on this point. Bromas coming alive with that tactical visor and finding a couple kills. Actually, only one there onto Envision, but still, that Tracer is a good pickup for them. They take the mech out as well. If they can find that kill, they might be able to get at least a tick here.
It's not really, one tick isn't going to be making the biggest of differences, unfortunately, for himself. Bromas is actually forced to utilize some of his focus onto the Talus Lucio. Nano boost onto Dakota as well. He's got a Primal Rage to work with. He pops it at the last second here. He actually gets hacked by Sombra from Linkster, and this is looking like maybe this is an opportunity for Dignitas to take the point. They have 2 ticks now. They're super close. Talus is able to get onto the point time. Next is still in the area. Envision taken down here. They have maybe a split 0.1 millisecond before they actually cap this one out. They need to get 2 kills here onto the Lucio. Links are going to be taken. Oh, Bromas with another tactical visor, a second one of the fight here. And just like that, Dignitas managed to cap out point B.
And man, that was incredibly close. Bromas definitely coming up big by having 2 tactical visors in that one fight alone. And now things are going to switch up. Dignitas with no time left in their bank. They have to make the hold here on one of these 2 points. And I mean, obviously, we've already seen how effective a defensive hold can be on that second point. I mean, you can really pull out a lot of time. I think it was something like just over 6 minutes that they had, and they pulled it out in overtime. So 6 minutes alone being pulled out on that second point. Maybe Dignitas is able to do much the same. Maybe they can hold on that first point, or maybe X Alternate Attacks is going to make an attack, much like what we saw in overtime there on Hollywood, which is just going to be decisive picks coming out right from the get-go. And maybe X Alternate Attacks is going to be able to mount an attack that really, I mean, should set them up to be able to win this in overtime. But we'll have to see, as, of course, we're going to be seeing a triple tank setup here on the defense coming out from Dignitas. And I imagine we'll be seeing a very, very traditional setup dive composition with the triple DPS, or rather, sorry, double DPS coming out there on the side of X Alternate Attacks. Next has just been consistently on this D.Va here. I think we're waiting for a pause. Hopefully the admins see this.
Hopefully. Otherwise, I don't know. I think it'll come through here, but nonetheless, CRX.
All right, we did get the. I sent a quick message over to our admin, and he was able to get that pause going.
You know, at the same time, I actually hit pause because I had no idea if I was or anything like that, and I just went ahead and do it the exact same time it paused. But he is actually back, so it wouldn't have made too much of a difference here to get things started. But like you said, X Attack's going to be making the push. What are you expecting from them to get things started? As you know, Dignitas came through with a 1 minute and 15 second point A capture. Do you think we could expect the same here from X Attacks?
I think X Attacks should be able to get at least this first point. The question, again, like I said in the beginning of this matchup, was what was going to happen on that second point. Obviously, a good hold from X Alternate Attacks, but I don't know what really to expect from Dignitas. They didn't do so well on Volskaya, and I don't know. I mean, maybe they're just going to fold under the pressure of a dive composition on this map as well here on 2CP. It's hard to know what to expect with this one. X Alternate Attacks certainly looking pretty strong in their initial attacks, but Linkster with a nice hook to start things out.
See a Widowmaker as well from an Invasion here. He will be spotted out. Of course, it's just going to mean they have to really hide on the defensive side. Might open up an opportunity for them to move in now. They are going to make their approach. Let's see what they can get done with it. As Code's taking a little bit of heat. Watt 7's under a lot of pressure. He's actually going to be dropped here. A good start for the defensive side. Next as well, going to be taken out next. So Watt 7 will be dropped here. It's back and forth for the most part, but Dignitas are going to be able to light up that feed and make a stand before this first checkpoint.
I think Envision does a lot better. I mean, he's obviously finding damage for himself on this Widow, but the value of this pick comes in finding those kills, finding those picks, and he is able to get his ultimate back up and get that infrasight going for his team. But They really need to do a lot more to be able to close this one out. And look at the position here from Dignitas, who are just away from this corner. Bromus, oh, gotta get headshot there, but Envision unable to find that kill, but he does find it there eventually. Loki gonna be able to be taken out, and a nice headshot coming out from Envision, and he's definitely doing the work now.
Dragon Blade from Cranks, able to find a kill before actually being dropped here. And Envision, like you said, finding some decent damage, but now as a D.Va in his face, we'll have to see if he's able to make it out of this one alive. And Dignitas still remaining strong here. 230 to work with. Nice hook, though. Oh, Decode actually almost taken out there. It takes a decent amount of damage. But Linkser is going to be the first to drop, though. And Envision now can zone them back here on the Widowmaker, looking for some picks. What does he find? Gets a hit there on the Bromus, looking for something else. Not quite going to find it, but they almost have a tick. This is an opportunity now for X Attacks to find that first check.
This is all just about getting an advantage positionally, and Envision, while he's not, well, I was going to say while he's not fragging out, now he certainly is a little bit, but he's able to find those last 2 picks to secure that point, and now around the same time here, just about 6 minutes, I mean pretty much exactly there for X Alternate Attacks, as they do still have that Widow. Infrasite's coming up now for the side of X Alternate Attacks on their attack.
They're just going to take the low ground. They're going to pop up to the high now. The Code gets the nano boost. Bromus as well with the tactical visor. He's going to have a Winston and D.Va all over him, so not a whole lot of value coming out from that, unfortunately. But a lot of their attention was actually diverted to deal with the 76. Bromus now is hit by the Code, coming out there with the Primal Rage. Finds that pick for himself here, as Linkser, of course, is now on that May pick, trying to slow him down. Sound barrier out for Talus as well. Self-destruct from next. Excuse me, no, he actually gets back into the mech here, but Cranks here has a Dragon Blade, and just like that, X Attacks lighting up the feed. They've got 5-10 to cap this one out, and they certainly should come away with at least 1 or 2 ticks from it.
I've always really liked Widowmaker in this particular situation. I mean, really, they just, it puts the defense in a situation where, oh, Linkser! What was that? Able to reflect that damage there coming out from the Widowmaker, and they are able to just jump right back on the point. I mean, this is really their only opportunity to get in there, because that Widowmaker having that positional advantage up top and high ground was not going to be good for them. They just would have kept getting pot shot there, and now they're able to make that defense all off the back of Linkser getting that nice reflect. I was just going to mention how effective Widowmaker is in that particular situation, where you can get that high ground and start just feeding shots into the center of that point, where anybody coming out of spawn is just under duress, like completely. But Linkser able to shut that one down with that nice reflect and get his team back onto the point. Nice play from him.
We're almost now over to a McCree pick, and that was so close from Dignitas losing that one with about 5-15. But thankfully for the offensive end, they have 2 ticks on the board, still 4-10 to work with now. Let's see what they can get done with it, as there's a pick from Toxic coming out with the self-destruct. There's 2 on the board for them, and Dignitas are going to be able to hold them off for this next push. Still so much time to work with, but thankfully they have an opportunity to still, you know, push this into overtime, maybe even still an opportunity to win this one here.
They definitely, I mean, it's just under 4 minutes. They already have 2 ticks. They're already ahead of what we saw from Dignitas here at this point, of course, as Dignitas really wasn't doing a whole lot at this stage in the game. It wasn't until that final push that they finally were able to clutch it out. And Infrasite's coming up now once again for Envision. Definitely looking for some picks here, but Linkser trying to shut that one down a little bit. We do see the Nano Blade coming out as well, as Linkser looking for these kills. Should be able to find them, and it does seem like finally Dignitas are back in this one.
3:20 to go. A couple of ultimates used there from Vaneless and Linkser. Like you said, the Nano Blade combination able to find a few picks in the end onto Envision, most notably, and then Ruby at the end. And with 3:05 to go, offense still has a bit to work with. If they can just come out alive and find a few picks, I think Envision actually moving over to the Roadhog now. So going with that triple tank setup, let's see what they're able to make of it to get things started for the next push.
From us with that Deadeye as well. They want to be able to get aggressive on him to be able to shut that one down. Cranks with the Dragon Blade, gonna get nano boosted as well. He's looking for some kills. Sound Barrier comes out to prevent some of that early damage. They only find that little trade there. Actually, we do see Dignitas with a 2-1 favor now in terms of kills.
They have the advantage number-wise, and of course the spawn as well, so I feel like this is going to be another failed attack from X Attacks themselves here. We're going to have to be forced to get a regroup. And, you know, if you lose a couple of people early on the offensive side for this point, B, Hurix, even if you return with a couple of kills yourself, you're at such a disadvantage, even though it may be like a 4-on-4, because that spawn is so clearly in favor of the defense. So it's really kind of not necessarily a waste of time, because miracles can happen with that stuff, but it's so difficult to get yourself back into that. And they used ultimates in that last fight as well, and just like that, we're now down to 2 minutes and not much to work with from attacks. This is looking like Dignitas could very well have this one in the bag.
We will see Linkser as well, looking for an opportunity to go ahead with his own Nano Blade. Jumps up, does get the Nano Boost, looking for some kills, should find the first one, and they already have 5 kills on the table, make it 6, or actually finally making it 6 there onto Cranks. And again, Dignitas able to hold out. They did indeed. I mean, what was it? 3 ults there, I think it was, and Bromas has been holding on to this Deadeye. I mean, what, since there was war in Vietnam, it seems, right?
Yeah, I mean, the 3 of them used it. I'm not really sure if that self-destruct was necessary from Toxicant, because Linkser pretty much was just lighting them up for the most part. Linkser now in the back line again as they start to make a push here. Let's see what they can get done with it. Bromas now with the Deadeye. He picks up 1, gets a second as well. Did have a Winston and a Diva in his face, but unfortunately for alternate attacks, really didn't make much of a difference. And again, Dignitas holding them back. 1 minute to go. Some ults starting to come back up for them. I think 1 more hold should seal the deal for the defense.
We'll see. Dignitas definitely looking like they want to really step their game up right now, because they lost their first matchup, dangerously close to losing their second at the moment. So obviously we will see this opening things up. Ruby looking for an opportunity to Nano Boost, does get it out onto Cranks. He does unleash the Nano Blade. Picks going off from both sides as Decode finds 2 for himself to start things off. And look at this, the Nano Boost on the Winston, just trying to hold things off with that damage reduction coming out from the boost.
Cranks really wasn't able to get a lot done with the Dragon Blade. He just kind of got booped back for the most part from the Lucio. Still pretty back and forth. We're going to hit overtime. Definitely Primal Rage is popped here from Decode. It's a 3-on-4 on the checkpoint. Sound Barrier comes out as well from Tallies. What can they get done with it? Linkser with the Dragon Blade trying to clean this one up. Finds 1 kill there. Gets a second one for himself as well onto Lucio. The deflect comes through. Linkser and company lighting up the score feed. Dignitas make the stand. They take the series 2-1.
Man, what a great re-entry there by Dignitas to be able to get back up onto that point and finally make those wipes. Dignitas taking the lead now and making it 2-1, not only for the map but also for the series, and then finally getting their first win here of the Group B series now. So I mean, they really need to, what is it, they need probably like 1 or 2 more wins now under their belt to be able to secure a spot in the playoffs, as it is the top 4 teams from each grouping moving on to the playoffs. It's gonna be top 8 from each region.
Yeah, that was little interesting to see how that went so back and forth from X Attacks and then of course Dignitas. All 3 maps, I'd say here, even though Nepal was a 3-0 for Dignitas, all 3 of them were extremely close. I mean, even round 1 going back that far was a 99-0 lead for X Attacks, and then coming all the way back into it from Dignitas. So a terrific series on our hands for that first one, as it will move X Alternate Attacks down to 0-2 in the standings and going to push Dignitas to 1-1. Our next series of the day is going to be it's going to be Movistar Riders up against Misfits. What are your thoughts on this next matchup?
Well, I mean, Movistar Riders definitely looked good against Dignitas, but Dignitas has been kind of struggling, I think, a little bit recently, whereas Misfits really kind of hasn't, coming off of Korea, their little stint there, and performing in Apex. They didn't really, I think, perform the way that they wanted to in that Season 2 of Apex, but now coming back over to the European region and into some of these Western tournaments, like we haven't really seen too much in the past. You know, Misfits has definitely been performing well so far. I expect them to continue that same kind of effort, and I expect them to be able to do very well throughout this group, and especially against Movistar Riders. But you know, I think that Misfits should look good in this particular matchup coming up next.
I have to agree with that one. I think they're going to head into this with a little bit of an upper hand, but you know, you got to keep in mind that both of these teams moving into this matchup are both at 1-0, so they're going to be coming in undefeated, I guess you could say. Guys, we're going to head to a short break before we hit this next matchup. When we're back, it'll be Movistar Riders up against Misfits. Stay with us.